Interesting event that happened in Ely, Minnesota over the weekend. And that is the unveiling of a new memorial there honoring, 200 and, 18 miners who died working in the mines between 1889 and 1966. So that dedication happening at by the Ely Arts and Heritage Center. We're joined now by Nick Wognum, the president of the Ely Arts and Heritage Center, of the board. Thank you for joining us. Where do we find? Oh, is that a backdrop? Oh, you're not actually outside because I see snow on the ground. It looks like. At first, I
Right.
thought, oh, this is really cool, but no.
Nope. Yeah, it's been a great project. We're glad it finally got to fruition. It took a long time, almost 20 years to put it all together, but we had a big unveiling yesterday and it went very well.
That's great. Let's talk about that effort here. Well, first, let's talk about what it looks like here. And we have some pictures or some video here to show, and we're showing that now. Describe what these memorials are.
Sure. Those are granite panels made with locally sourced Masabi granite that list each of the 218 men who were killed at work at one of Ely's underground mines. And they date, like you said, from the late 1880s into the last one in 1966.
Wow. So, and then the 20-year project here.
Yeah.
What took so long to get, when you look at it, it's fairly simple, fairly understated, very, very solemn, very appropriate. What took 20 years to get that done?
I'd say two things. One, fundraising. We did a lot of local small donations. We were able to get some larger ones as we went on, but the research took the longest time. This was literally going into death records in county courthouses, newspaper clippings, and even going out to cemeteries and looking at the actual headstones to see how the name was actually spelled. As you can imagine, around the turn of the century, we didn't always have the best information on names and dates and those types of things. So we spent a lot of time with a lot of volunteers to make that happen.
That's what I find interesting is that, you have some of these records, but obviously this is why there was such an immigration movement to the
Right.
Iron Range is when, this ore was found there and it became a booming industry and really put Ely on the map, quite literally. I mean, it grew exponentially from this. But you have some of these names. You've heard stories about how people's family name got respelled coming through immigration in New York. So yeah, how challenging was it to find the accurate spelling and how much that might have varied?
That was the most difficult part. And some of those names, like you said, because they were from different countries, they would be spelled differently in English than they were, say, in Slovenian or in Finnish or whatever they came from. So that really, really, really made it difficult. We ended up with duplicates. Of course, we were missing some along the way. And so we decided just to take our time, spend it, doing all that research we could to be as accurate as we could. I mean, you're etching this in granite, so you want to do a good job.
Yeah, let's talk about too the lives here that were lost over this period of time. It seems like a pretty large number. I mean, I guess you're looking at what, about 80 years or so of time here, and more than 200 people lives lost. How did these deaths occur? I mean, how dangerous of an environment was this?
The turn of the century, especially late 1800s, early 1900s, the descriptions of the deaths were very graphic in the newspaper articles. And I won't go into them here because some of them are almost hard to bear. But those, deaths varied, of course, greatly by age as well. I think the youngest one on the list is 19.
Wow.
A lot of them were in their, 20s and 30s. Those are younger men who just never got a chance to go home from work that day. And what a sad thing that was. And so it just seemed right to commemorate them.
Yeah, one of the articles I read about it this morning too, referenced about how the big conglomerates or corporations, the big steel companies that got very wealthy off these mines, and they did it, on the backs of these laborers in very dangerous conditions whose names had been forgotten to history.
Yeah, I'm just so proud we're finally able to do that. There wasn't a lot of mining company support back then for our workers' safety, especially in those early days. And it was very common to hear the whistle go off in town and find out another man had been lost. Maybe he was crushed from rock falling on him. Maybe he fell down a shaft. All those were things that unfortunately were very common in those early days.
Yeah, I read one case of a snapped cable that hit somebody and killed them instantly, and another case where I guess the cage or the elevator that brings people down hit somebody that was working, killed instantly. But then over time, this led to really the move for worker protections.
For sure. And that's the start of the popularity of unions in our country, right? To make sure that those workers had safer conditions to be in and that the focus wasn't so much on how much ore they could get out of the ground, but that the men who went down to underground would be able to come back up at the end of their shift.
Yeah, safely. All right. Well, if people want to come visit this new memorial and take a moment, where do they find it?
Sure. Come to Ely and go to the Pioneer Mine, located just north of town a little ways, right by the Grand Ely Lodge. So come over, grab a meal, and stop over to our museum and see the memorial.
And there's an interpretive center and tour there for folks. I've never had a chance to do that. I mean, what all can you take in?
We're going to give you a personalized tour where you're able to ask questions and find out information about the history of mining in Ely. And please come up. We'd be happy to visit with you.
All right. Thanks so much, Nick Wagnum with the Ely Arts and Heritage Center. Appreciate it. It's great to see this project finally reach the finish line.
For sure. Thank you for your time today.
All right. Appreciate it.